Bizarre stories from subscribers.
Hi, Leo Augusto, how are you? My name is Pablo, and I live in Fregaspar, Minas Gerais. This story happened about 2 years ago. I was in the countryside, at my grandmother's house with my cousin. It was a really nice day. We were playing in the backyard until we decided to pick coconuts straight from the tree. When we were up there on the ladder, we heard the radio turn on by itself. This radio was on the windowsill. The curious thing is that this radio turned on without being plugged into the outlet. We came down the coconut tree ladder and went to the radio. There, we pressed the power button and the radio turned off. So we went to the coconut tree and picked the coconuts. We drank the water and relaxed in the backyard. We decided to turn on the radio to listen to some music. And when I pressed the button to turn it on, it just wouldn't turn on at all. My God. After that, I got kind of suspicious about that situation. I checked to see if there were any batteries and there was absolutely nothing. Later, I went to take a shower because I was really dirty and smelly. I played a lot in the backyard and it was time to get cleaned up. After I finished showering, I opened the shower stall and left it open, right? Suddenly, it started closing by itself, really slowly. I got really scared, but I didn't tell anyone, man. I waited for my cousin to take a shower to see what would happen, right? To see if he would see any supernatural manifestation. And suddenly, he came out calm and fine. I went to check to see if everything was okay in there. Hey man, if I were you, I wouldn't go in there, okay? I just dropped a nasty bomb, dude. It stinks like crazy in there.
Be careful, okay?
Alright. I'm just going to do something here. I went into the bathroom and opened the shower stall, but it didn't close. To this day, I still get uneasy about going to my grandma's farm. That was my story. I hope you like it. Take care, Leo. Wishing you success and God's blessings. Hey, Leo Augusto, how's it going? My name is Luis and I'm 14 years old. Actually, this story was told to me by my grandma. It impressed me so much that I still remember it to this day. She said she had a friend named Rosa who lived on a farm a bit far from where we lived. One day, my grandma decided to pay her a visit, so she went to that farm. They spent the whole day talking since it had been a while since they last saw each other. After many stories, it started to get dark. My grandma decided to go back home, but her friend Rosa told her not to take the road at night and invited her to stay over. Go in the morning. Rosa had a little cat named Peter. She followed them all day. Wherever they went, the little cat was behind them, even to the bathroom. That cat had a very different look from other animals. It seemed like she understood us. Rosa said she had put Peter in timeout because she ate her steak at lunch the day before, so she didn't give the cat any food as punishment. At night, around midnight, Rosa said she was going to look at the moonlight in the yard and get some fresh air, right? My grandma was already in the bedroom making the bed when she saw Peter on top of a fence through the window. Suddenly, the cat turned into a huge shadow and swallowed her friend. My grandma said she saw the cat's shadow swallowing her. She went outside to see up close but didn't see anything. Not the cat, not her friend around there. Early the next morning, she left that place and never went back. Hello, Leo Augusto. My name is Levi and I have a heavy story to tell. Back in school, there was a really weird story going around. Everyone said that the school basement was haunted by a ghost and that if anyone went in there, no matter what their intentions were, the ghost would get you. Nobody really knew how that ghost ended up there. We only knew we were supposed to stay away from that evil hole. I didn't have any friends at school. In fact, I was the one who got bullied by the other students. Even the teacher made fun of me, calling me the quiet kid. That was because I didn't talk in class. I didn't have anyone to talk to, no friends. How was I supposed to say anything? One day I got to the classroom and went to sit down. As I was sitting, Adolfo, the class bully, pulled the chair out from under me, making me fall right on my butt on the floor, which was covered in thumbtacks. I got pricked all over, man.
It hurt a lot. I started screaming and ran out crying.
That was without a doubt the worst day of my life. Everyone in the classroom was laughing at me. And after that incident with the thumbtacks, people started calling me Civ Butt.
Anyway, being made fun of every day and getting bullied by Adolfo Lazarento kept making me more and more stressed out.
I was sick and tired of going to school, man, because I knew I was going to get messed with by that jerk.
The butt of everyone's jokes, man. What a drag.
Since I didn't have any friends at school, I would just walk around, hiding in the corners and watching things. When you don't have friends at school, you start paying attention to everything, even the staff who work there. That's when I found out that Adolfo liked a girl from the other class. Who would have thought that that fool with his cold heart would melt for someone? Then I remembered the school's basement, the basement that's supposedly haunted by a ghost. With nothing better to do, I walked past the door and saw it was blocked by some chairs. I tried to open the door and it wasn't locked. No one was watching me, so I just stuck my face in to peek, and get a sense of what it was like inside. There were a lot of boxes and a lot of dust. That's when I saw a shadow pass by and knock over one of the boxes. I heard a terrifying whisper, and that's when I closed the door right away. I was frozen. My body was cold and I couldn't move. After a few minutes there, paralyzed, I was about to leave the door when who shows up? Adolfo. He started getting on my nerves, man, asking what I was doing standing there. I quickly thought and said that the girl he liked was waiting for him in the basement, man, and she told me to give him the message, And would you believe the idiot actually bought that story? He got all nervous, sweating and shaking. He seemed like a different person, and then he went to the basement, man. Dude, all I heard was a scream from inside.
I ran out and went to the classroom. I kept watching the lesson like nothing had happened.
Until his friends came to ask me where Adolfo was since he hadn't come back after recess. And I said he was skipping class to be with a girl. His friends chuckled and laughed. The strange thing was that when it was time to leave, he didn't show up to get his stuff. I ran home and kept trying to process everything that happened. My desperate act could have serious consequences. The next day in class, Adolfo didn't show up and his parents went to the school. Their son hadn't come home. Man, I was screwed. When I was in the classroom, I was called by the principal. Their friends said that I had seen Adolfo with a girl during recess, and after that, he wasn't seen anymore. They asked me if I knew anything. I told them part of what I knew, right? That I had seen him during recess going to the school basement, and since it was time to go back to class, I didn't stay to see. So they went to the school basement hoping to find the missing boy. They found Adolfo. He was sitting on the floor with his eyes wide open. He had defecated in his pants and was trembling, mumbling a few words. Since then, Adolfo developed mental problems and did not return to school.
Bizarre stories from subscribers.
Hi, my name is Susanna. Today I'm going to tell a story my grandmother told me. When she was a child, she went to buy cilantro at the market, which was a bit far from her house. So my grandmother decided to take a shortcut through an abandoned house. The house had twisted bars and there was a space she could squeeze through to get to the other side of the street. She managed to get through and started walking through the yard. She glanced at the window and it was open. She saw something white inside. Then the thing stood up and she saw that it had a horse's head. Out of nowhere, the thing's neck started rising, stretching out. When my grandmother realized it, the creature's head was coming after her. Frightened, she ran and climbed over the opposite fence. But her hair got caught. Desperate, she yanked her head and hair out of the fence and got out of there. When she got home and told her parents, her mother said it was a horse zombie, a mix of human and horse, some bizarre supernatural experiment they did on that thing.
After that, she and my great-grandfather went there to take a look, right?
To see if it was still there, but there was nothing. Postscript: if you see that creature, run. Otherwise, it will catch up to you and get you, and then it's over. Hi Leo, I'm Enzo, 8 years old. This story took place recently.
I was at home watching television, just relaxing, when suddenly I saw my cat running out into the street.
I went after her to bring her back.
When I got there was an abandoned back house, and near the back door, there was a hole. Before I could do anything, she went in there. I stayed close, calling out, "Kitty, come here, Kitty." I couldn't get into the hole, so I went back home. When it was nighttime, I heard my kitty meowing. Meow, meow, meow. I opened the window and called her in. She had something in her mouth. I got a closer look and saw that she was holding a bizarre hand. I grabbed my kitten and shook her so she'd let go of that thing. When it hit the floor, man, I saw its fingers move. I grabbed that thing and threw it out the window, and I closed everything up, right? Around midnight, I was getting ready to sleep. My kitten got agitated and climbed up on the window ledge. When I looked outside to see what she was looking at, I saw the shadow of a man walking really slowly, dragging himself and picking up the hand that was on the ground. He crouched down, picked up the hand and attached it to his wrist, man. And then he left. What was that?
Hello Leo, my name is Bernardo. I'm a big fan. I'm 13 years old. My story is as follows.
At my school, about 6 years ago, there was a little room where the kids who misbehaved in class were sent. The punishment room, right? Nowadays, it's the meeting room. But back then, my friends and I used to go in there because they said a child had been killed while camping at the school at night. So they said you could hear voices in that room. I didn't really believe it, but one day I was passing by and I heard some whispers. At that moment, I ran out and went to the classroom. I told my friends. At first, they didn't believe me. They said I was lying. So I challenged everyone that the next day we would go there prepared with flashlights and everything.
The next day arrived.
At recess, when we went in, it was completely dark.
So we turned on our flashlights and saw a shadow pass behind a chair.
At that moment, we all felt a hand passing over our necks. We saw her, the child. We looked at the ceiling and right in the corner there was a hole. My friend pointed the flashlight to light it up and saw only the child's head. At that moment, we were already scared out of our minds. We all ran except for the friend who pointed the flashlight. He was paralyzed, staring at the child. So we had to pull him to come with us. After that day, we never went back there. A week after it happened, they had that little room turned into something else. The teacher's meeting room that it still is today. And here's a tip for you all. Be careful, spirits exist and they're among us. Hey Leo, my name is Benjamin. Sorry if there are any writing mistakes. It's because I forgot how to write in Portuguese. I'm 13 years old and I wanted to tell you a story that happened when I was 10, sometime after I moved to the United States. I started studying at a very old school called Tatnuk Magnet School, and I made a Brazilian friend who would translate what the Americans said to me. One day I was talking to this friend of mine when I randomly bumped into a boy.
And then he said, "Wow, you look like a boy who was kidnapped last year."
When my friend translated it for me, I was shocked. Then I asked if this boy was found. He said yes, but he was found lifeless. The following week at school, there was a moment when I felt like using the bathroom. But the bathrooms on the second and third floors were all closed off because a pipe had burst. The only bathroom available was the one in the school basement. So I went there. When I got to the bathroom, I slipped in a puddle of urine and fell on my back. Someone had peed at the entrance to the bathroom, man, so I took off my soaked shirt, and put it in the sink. I used the bathroom, still kind of shaken up by what happened. When I left the toilet, my shirt was no longer in the sink. When I look to the side, I see a shadow carrying my shirt. And the worst part is, the boy looked like me. At that moment, I didn't think twice and ran without a shirt to find a counselor who spoke Portuguese. I told him the story and asked him to check it out. The guy laughed at me and we went to the place. When we got there, my shirt was on the ground. The counselor thought I was crazy. After that day, I begged my mom to take me out of that school.
Bizarre stories from the subscribers.
Hello Leo, my name is Pedro, but just call me Alien. Alright man, I'll turn you into an alien here, like this, is that okay? This story is about when I went to my aunt's house last year. That day, she was going to make pamonha for us. Next to her house, there was an abandoned one that belonged to my late great-grandmother. While my uncles were preparing the pamonha, I went over to that abandoned house to take a look. The house still had the furniture and photos from decades ago. They kept the place to remember my great-grandmother. So I started exploring the place, right? I walked past the bathroom and saw that the toilet was open.
So I went there and closed it, right?
I explored the other rooms. Everything was normal, right? A lot of dust and cobwebs. Then I heard a noise. When I came back, I passed by the bathroom. The lid was up again with no one inside. I was kind of traumatized, but since I believe in the supernatural, I calmed down a bit and started thinking it could be my great-grandmother's spirit in the bathroom, that she was just taking care of her needs. So then I relaxed and went back there to eat the pamonha. When I got there, I told my uncles what had happened, and they said it's normal, that strange noises keep happening inside that house, and they believe it's their grandmother's spirit, my great-grandmother in this case. Hello Leo, my name is Julia. The following story I'm going to tell you happened in 2015 at my old school. Well, the place was already considered haunted by many, and there were a lot of stories told about strange things that happened there. They said that students mysteriously disappeared from that school. Well, I've always been a skeptical person, so I thought the rumors my friends told me were false. I thought that until the day something strange happened to me. Whenever classes ended, I would stay until after 6 o'clock because my mom worked a lot and could only pick me up later. So I decided to walk around the school to pass the time, until I ran into a girl I had never seen before. She invited me to go see a room that was in the back of the school. Since I was bored, I decided to go with her. When we got there, the room was dark and I could barely see anything. I could only hear a deep, scary voice saying,
I'm going to get you.
Like anyone who was suspicious, I thought it was a joke, so I looked around the room to see if I could see anyone, right?
However, it was empty. That's when I started to break out in a cold sweat.
I turned around to talk to the girl, but I was surprised when I didn't see her. I went looking for her around the school, but I couldn't find her anywhere. The girl disappeared. My God, then suddenly I saw my mom. She had come to pick me up and we left that place. The next day, I had to go to school, and I still had that event on my mind. When I met my friends, I decided to ask them if they knew that girl. And to my surprise, they said that the girl had disappeared here at school the day before, and that they were looking for her, but no trace of the girl was found. After that, I never went to that strange room at school again. This is a story about Nicole. When I was 4 years old, I used to see a creature. Kind of bizarre, I told my parents what I was seeing, but they said it was just my imagination. So I didn't really pay much attention to that creature, After a few years, I stopped seeing it. A few days ago, I was playing with my dog in the living room. My parents had gone to take my grandma to the doctor and I was home alone. Suddenly, I heard a noise coming from the kitchen. It was calling my name.
Legally.
I was completely frozen, but I gathered my courage and went to see who it was. When I got to the kitchen, I didn't see anyone. Kind of obvious, since I was the only one in the house. Then I got chills. In the middle of the night, I went to sleep around 1:30 in the morning, and then, when I closed my eyes, I heard the voice again.
Nicole.
I opened my eyes and looked at the wardrobe and I saw a dark hand coming out of it, and then it went back in. I tried to forget about it and forced my mind not to believe it was real. Then I managed to fall asleep again. At around 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up.
Nicole, I thought my mom was calling me, but when I opened my eyes, I saw the same creature.
She had completely white eyes and a black body. She was smiling at me. It was the creature I had seen since I was a child. She came back. Nowadays, I'm 11 years old, and as incredible as it may seem, she's here by my side watching me write this. We're friends. His name is Bob.